Chapter 424, Cruel Elimination. Translator, translation_nation. Editor, translation_nation, Chuchatrain. Death God Bolin was the most unbelievable absolute genius of this genius battle between the 1008 universe countries. Even when compared to the earlier competitions from before, it had been a very long time since such a perverted existence like that had appeared. From the gathered data, this death god Bolin had once created over 100 mirror images. That's just unbelievable. Luo Feng looked at the distant white-clothed youth carrying the blood-red long blade on his back. He was very clear within that he wasn't a match at all for this genius that had long been regarded as the undisputed number one this time. According to the 10,000 thread levels, the third level was the 100 thread. The fourth level was the 10,000 thread. That was already the highest level of the 10,000 thread technique. The legendary teleportation was after all just a myth. And this Bolin's revealed strength so far has indicated that he was obviously close to the fourth level. To be considered as such an anomaly in just the star level, looking at the previous number ones of the 10 earlier competitions, they all seemed to be stronger than Savage Rong Jun. However, none had reached such a level before. Death God Bolin, he was invincible. Even Sector Lords. It was very hard to comprehend the space origin laws. To be able to reach the fourth level of 10,000 threads, that only happened with one amongst the 10,000. If it was one amongst 10,000 for even Sector Lords, one could imagine for a star-level punk, just how scary that was. It was no wonder that even before the genius battles had yet to begin, many Undying had already concluded that the number one undisputed winner of the competition would be this white-clothed youth. How did he train? Just how did he train? Luo Feng creased his eyebrows. I rely on the Mosha clan to train, and I've only broken through to one thread, still very far from the 9 threads. After all the space origin laws, that's one of the 2 hardest laws to comprehend, next to time. Big brother? An elegant green-haired beautiful girl with her long hair curled up, her face covered with green engravings said, "That's Death God Bolin?" "That's the one teacher said, the only one we have no chance of defeating?" "Right." Beside her was another youth with similar green hair and engravings on his face. He was nodding, while staring hard at the distant white-clothed youth. "That's him. A star level who's reached such abnormal levels of comprehension with the space origin laws. Even in the recent million years of genius competitions number ones, there hasn't been anyone like him before." However, Qian Shui. The youth lowered his head to look at the lady beside him. "Even though we aren't any match against Death God Bolin, there's still second and third place. We siblings must grab them. Qian Shui understands." The lady nodded. This pair of siblings had terrifying reputations within this genius competition. They were from the mysterious place Augustus Planet. Within the vast universe, there were a few planets that were very mysterious, or had huge reputations. Like the Manka Planet, Augustus Planet, Muzu Planet, and so on. These planets all had undisputable power that made people's hearts tremble. They could very easily send out a group of Undyings. These planets could completely name themselves a universe country's core. Like the Manka planet was one of the 2 cores of the barbarian universe country. Within the center of the plaza, 100,000 geniuses couldn't help but look at the white-clothed youth, causing him to crease his eyebrows and enter a restaurant. "Who? That's Death God Bolin. I really don't know how he trains. No matter how powerful the bloodline, he shouldn't be that abnormal," I suspect he isn't even human. Discussions were rampant in the plaza among the gathered 100,000 geniuses in the plaza, along with the beings in restaurant number 1. As time passed, the leaders of the 1008 universe countries of geniuses, the Great Undyings, all arrived here at restaurant number 1. Be it in the first level or the second level, they were all chatting casually. This youth called Bolin, although he is only a star level, his comprehension of the space origin laws is that strong. Who knows, in 100 eras, he might become a space knight. Space knight? That's too much. To become a space knight, that's still a long ways to go. Many Undyings have trained for trillions of years and still have been unable to become space knights. He's still far off. Becoming a space knight is not that easy to achieve. Hard. Even his physical body passing through space and teleporting is still far from it. Much less becoming a space knight. That's excessive flattery. In our 1008 universe countries, how long has it been since we've had a new knight? That youth may be an exceptional rare genius from many generations of competitions. However, in terms of geniuses, if you had said he'd become like us as Undyings, I'd agree. However, to become a space knight, that's simply too. Space knight, these two words had aroused the objections of a large group of the Undyings, as all of them were rejecting the idea. Haha, what are you discussing? It's so noisy. A bright voice resounded throughout the entire restaurant number 1's first and second floors. Immediately all the Undyings turned to look. At the entrance was a man dressed in a very simple green robe. He had a gently smile and his eyes contained a friendly gaze. His head was covered in purple scales. Although his entire being was standing there, it almost seemed like he didn't exist, almost as though he was in a different time and space from the other Undyings. Rumble. All the Undyings on the first level immediately stood up, including that scale-armored giant 13, they all bowed respectfully. New hapters will be fully updated at novl/bin.com. Sir Knight. The 100 or so Undyings bowed. This time, for our virtual universe company's organized genius competition, all your great universe countries have supported us. I represent the virtual universe company and express our thanks. The green-robed purple-scaled man smiled. That's what we ought to do. The first and second floor Undyings all resounded. The green-robed purple-scaled man smiled and nodded. Continue your discussions, in a bit, I will gather all the youths. After which, he turned and left. After he left, the entire first floor of Undyings, including many constantly coming down from the second floor, began their discussions. It's actually Sir Nineblades. I heard that Sir Nineblades was recently at the Automaton territory in one of their universe secret areas. I didn't expect him to host this genius competition. Speaking of which, about 100,000 eras before, when Sir Nineblades was still at the star level, he took part in the genius battle too. Back then, he was the number 1 of that time during which he had shook the entire competition. His reputation and show back then doesn't seem any less than this youth Bolin. So what if one has good talent? Just the path to become an Undying alone is a very bumpy road, and large amounts of sector lords fall right at the final doorway. That Bolin has to go through a lot on the bumpy road to becoming Undying, much less the 10,000 times or million times harder path of a space knight. The group of Undying sighed. These were all Undyings from the many universe countries with high amounts of power and authority, All of them were important and authoritative people directly under their country leaders. They could easily destroy a few planets or stars with a flip of their hand. However, if they could become a knight of any path, that would be one with the ability to own a few starfields and create a universe country already. A space knight, with a wave of his hand, could turn the flow of stars and change the space altogether. A planet in front of them was akin to a glass marble. At evening, sipping drinks in one of the restaurants in the plaza, Luo Feng suddenly heard a voice invade his consciousness. Participants from the 1008 universe countries, please gather at the center plaza. Unconsciously, Luo Feng stood straight up. It wasn't just him, all the geniuses in the restaurant stood up too. 1,008,000 geniuses, be it flying from the sky or from the skyscrapers, all flew out, some even flying from the edges of the plaza, all gathering in the center. Over 1 million geniuses were gathered there. At this time, with 1,008,000 geniuses there forming a large square formation, stood in the center of the plaza. After which, they all awoke. What happened? Luo Feng awoke. What's going on? Ah, why am I here? I was just within the house. The entire square formation of over 1 million geniuses had woken suddenly. Even that death god Bolin too had the same shocked expression. At this time, above the square formation, 1008 undyings stood there. These undyings naturally released their auras and pressure, with the pressure of over 1,000 undyings. These caused the over 1 million geniuses to immediately go silent, not one daring to even make a sound. Welcome to all participants in our virtual universe company's Pinnacle Genius competition. A gentle voice resounded within every ear. Everyone turned over to look and were completely shocked. The originally empty space in front suddenly had a green-armored, purple-scaled man appear. He was all smiles, however, standing in mid-air, he seemed like an ancient god. The aura he naturally emitted made the over 1 million geniuses submit unconsciously. Also, even though they could see him there with their eyes, all the geniuses felt as though this great being himself was almost like in a different space altogether. That time and space disorderly feeling made them feel extremely uncomfortable. 1008 universe countries, 1,000 from each, a total of over 1 million geniuses. The green-robed man stood in mid-air, surveying the over 1 million geniuses below. His voice was gentle. Our virtual universe company is going to pick the 1,000 strongest from you all, and absorb them into the core of our virtual universe company. The 1,000,000 of you will contest for 1,000 slots. The rules are as below. Tomorrow, all of you will separately enter a training space. Our virtual universe company has prepared over 1 million training spaces, one for each of you. There's a total of 7 towers within the training space. Every tower has 7 levels. From the first tower you will begin your battle. After finishing the first tower and all of its 7 levels, then you can enter the second tower. If you die at any point, you will be kicked out of the training space. According to your training space results, we'll calculate the points. The top rankers in points from rank 100 will immediately be absorbed into the virtual universe company's core members, acquiring 100 slots. From rank 101 to rank 7,300, these 7,200 people will engage in arena duels and fight for the remaining 900 slots. As for those 7,300 and behind, they'll be eliminated. The green-robed man's words caused the over 1 million geniuses to be stunned. There were a total of 1,008,000 people this time, meaning that just from this training space, over 1 million were going to be eliminated.